Hari Om. Welcome back to our study of Vivekachudamani. In the last capsule and the capsule before that, I was talking about a story that is presented in the Kena Upanishad that brings out a very important teaching. The story goes that there was a protracted battle between the Devas and the Asuras. It looked like the battle would never end. And the Devas were being outnumbered by the Asuras, as is normally the case. And such battles were constantly taking place between the Devas and the Asuras. And at a point when the Devas became helpless, they approached the Lord to enlist his help, which the unfailing Lord promised. And he extended his help and finally enabled the Devas to win this fierce battle against the Asuras. And post victory, the victorious team is given to celebrating the victory. And so did the Devas. While doing so, they completely forgot the reason for their winning the battle. In the revelry, they forgot themselves. They lost sight of themselves, completely engaged in revelry, in drinking and dancing and everything else, having fun. They forgot the Mula Karanam. They forgot Ishvara, who was the principal cause for their victory. Success seemed to have got into the heads of the Devas. They had begun to turn arrogant. It is because they were humble that the Lord acceded to help them. But now that he found them becoming arrogant, he decided to teach them a lesson. And so he took the form of a yaksha and approached the reveling devas at a distance, from a distance. Even as the Devas were in the midst of their revelries, the brilliance emanating from the Yaksha caught the eye of Indra and a few Devas. And so Indra, the Deva Raja, addresses Agni Devata, to go and find out who or what this Yaksha was. And so Agni, on approaching the Yaksha, asks the Yaksha who or what it was. At which the Yaksha asks Agni a counter question as to who he was. And Agni Deva, being in the state of mind that he was in, felt insulted on being asked who he was. Then he started blowing his trumpet, saying, I am the Agni Devata. I am the one who can burn down anything that stands in front of me. And so the Yaksha presents Agni a dry blade of grass and asks Agni, please burn this blade of grass and show me your prowess. Agni, using all his might, millions of degrees centigrade heat he brought in, but the blade of grass couldn't be touched, couldn't be singed, not even the edge of the blade could be singed. And then Agni had to accept defeat and return to Indra totally deflated. Then Indra sends Vayu. The same situation repeats. Vayu asks of the Yaksha who or what it was. And then, on being counter questioned by the Yaksha, Vayu is infuriated as it were, then begins to, out of Dambhitvam and Manitvam, begins to sing his own praises. At which the Yaksha presents Vayu, the same blade of grass, asking Vayu to apply his lifting prowess to lift that blade of grass off the ground. Vayu tried his level best, try as he may, couldn't make a dent, couldn't move that blade of grass by 1 millimeter. Then Agni, Vayu too, returns deflated of his ego. This was the Lord's way of teaching them a lesson. Then goes Indra. And as even Indra nears the Yaksha disappears. And in that very place appears Haimavati, Umadevi, in the form of a guru, and instructs Indra that that Yaksha was none other than the Supreme Lord, who had come in the form of a in his Saguna Swarupa to teach Devas a lesson because they had lost sight of themselves and the Lord, not being grateful to the Lord for having helped them win the battle against the Asuras. He wanted to quell the arrogance and pride of the Devas by teaching them a lesson, proper lesson. This clearly exemplifies the need to be grateful, the need to be humble, the need to be genteel, and not lose one's balance in life, lest we get carried away by our successes. This is a beautiful anecdote that is presented in the Kena Upanishad, using the Yaksha example. So there are any number of such cases, any number of such anecdotes that are presented to drive home the point that, like Shankaracharya says, adhikarinam ashaste phalasiddhir visheshatah. Adhikaritvam is of primary importance. If a serious spiritual aspirant wants to make the grade, so this is the story I wanted to relate to you in connection with this topic. I thought it is a significant story to demonstrate how much humility matters in keeping our balance, how much Dharma Shastra matters in helping us to keep our sanity intact. Samatvam, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. Sukha dukhe same krutva labha labhau jaya jayau. Tato yuddhaya yujyasva naibam papamavapsyasi, says Lord Krishna in the second chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Sukha dukhe same krutva labha labhau jaya jayau. Keep your balance. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Hence, Shankaracharya also lays a lot of emphasis on adhikaritvam in this section. Swamiji says the teacher's competence alone is not enough. Teacher's competence alone is not sufficient. Students' receptivity is key. Students' receptivity is key. The teacher has already made the grade. The teacher who was hitherto a student before he became a teacher, before becoming a Shrotriya Brahmanistha Acharya, he too was an Ajnani who qualified himself or herself for receiving this precious knowledge, Tattvamasi knowledge from his Acharya, and succeeded in making the grade. So the teacher is already qualified. He is a Shrotriya Brahmanistha Acharya. Now the onus is on the student to become qualified, to gain the benefit of the teaching. So the student receptivity is key. The word asura means someone driven by sensuality and materialism. Not, we are not talking about physical appearances. Ashushu ramate iti asura. He who revels in the senses and the sense objects, who is a materialist, is called an asura. Therefore, one needs to check for oneself where one stands in terms of the qualifications that are asked for. Therefore, adhikarinam ashaste. Shankaracharya says not only are qualifications important, there are other contributing factors too that are important. And what are they? He says, Desha Kalabhyam. Desha Kalabhyam. Desha means an ideal place. Swamiji asks, would it be possible for you to read a book at Madras Central Station? Not possible, is it not? With all the distraction around, it would be difficult to concentrate, right? Whereas a quiet library is like a conducive environment for learning, serves as a conducive environment for learning. It boosts focus and grasping power, boosts focus and grasping power. Just like a Gurukula's setup, sacred surroundings like Ganga Tiram, etc., and like minded people create an ideal learning environment. You obviously can't be expected to study Vedanta in a place that is all the time riddled with noise, arguments, family fights, or in a war ridden place like the Kashmir Valley, or in Iran or Iraq, or any such place which is always under unrest. It's not possible, right? This is why, although Desha and Kala are Sahakari Sadhanani, they are aids to studying. Shankaracharya lays a lot of emphasis on them as secondary auxiliary aids to study of Vedanta. Let us continue our study of this important section in the upcoming capsules and take it forward from there. Until then, Hari Om. ॐ दुर्जनः सज्जनो भूयात् सज्जनः शान्तिमाप्नुयात् शान्तो मुच्येत बन्धेभ्यः मुक्तश्चान्यान् विमोचयेत् सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ